Welcome to Pandora's Awareness Podcast, a place where we collect stories and circulate life-changing wisdom. I'm your host, Asher, and our guest today is Meg, and you're here because we get to talk about first-time experiences. That is the theme of our Monday conversation, first-time experiences. And from we all know that first-time experiences are some of those great gems that we get to really experience and share with the world. So, Meg, if you don't mind telling us where you're hailing from, what you specialize in, how you adding value to the world, and who you've been a hero to.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. My name is Meg Hall, and I currently live in Denver, Colorado, loving the mountains.
Mm,
And my background is in healthcare. I'm a nurse by trade, and then worked about 35 years out, in healthcare leadership and administration. And recently left the corporate world and have my own business doing healthcare consulting
mm,
and then leadership and life coaching.
mm. And who you are being a hero to these days?
You know, I don't know about a hero, but I'm trying to help and support um, other people that are going through similar experiences that I've grown from and learned from. Whether that be, growing up in an abusive home and learning to overcome and reprogram some of those messages that come for that, or whether it be somebody who's trying to get their career going and trying to make it in healthcare and are reaching all these different barricades and challenges, or just someone who, from whatever traumatic experience, really needs some support and assistance to really live an authentic, joyful life.
Mm. I think you've been a hero for real. Because
Thank you.
there are so many people that are having a lot of difficulties in systems. Because like you got every organization got their own bureaucracy, and sometimes you need somebody to help you navigate it. And when
Exactly.
those barriers hit you, you need help. Like I'm doing some of the same thing. I'm in business too, like entrepreneur stuff. And sometimes I run into barriers. I'm like, I got this problem. I need to find somebody that's been doing this longer than I have.
Yeah,
And when you
exactly.
find that person, you're like, oh, it was that easy. Why was I killing myself? You
And
know?
so many times you don't have to have the answer for them.
Hmm.
You just have to help talk it through with them. And many times they already have their own answer in their mind. It's just talking with somebody who's been through something similar helps pull out what those possible options are for you.
Mm. Just talking through it. That's it. Like
Mm-hmm.
somebody saying, "Hey, that's what you're doing is right."
Mm-hmm.
Because oftentimes we're looking for that easy path that somebody else
Yeah.
has created already. And it's like if you're trying to like be a pioneer or trying to make a new path, it's very difficult. But oftentimes we're like, hey, if somebody did it already, I would take that same path. And that's oftentimes what we're
Mm-hmm.
looking for. So yeah,
Yep.
it's easy. It's nice. Here goes my let me go bring it. I'm bringing my partner here.
Great.
She can come on screen when she's ready. But yeah, it's definitely so if you don't mind, if you want to share with us dear Meg, some of your first time experiences that you would love for us to have a conversation with you around, who you start.
I've had a number of first time experiences, and one of them that to me over these last 4 or 5 years has really hit home a lot.
Hmm.
Um, growing up, I grew up in a small town in Minnesota and never saw a Black man or woman until I was in college, and my first roommate was Black.
Mm-hmm.
And my parents were a little twisted about it. But I wasn't. I was like excited and curious and wanted to understand, wanted to share mine and share and learn about her. And so we had a phenomenal freshman year. I learned so much about her culture. She was from Mississippi
Mm-hmm.
and just learned about the different foods, the different skincare, hair care, dating history, high school experience. All of that was so different for both of us. And I think we really learned to understand where the other person was coming from
Mm-hmm.
as a result of that. And I think to me, that opened my eyes as people are people
Mm-hmm.
and more diversity, the better. And I kind of carried that through my healthcare career because whether it's diversity in age, diversity in race, diversity in belief systems, we always learn from each other more by sitting and listening and asking questions and getting to know that person. So I think that was the start for me to realize how important it was to not judge,
Mm-hmm.
um, and to just be open and curious and want to learn and understand.
Mm. Interestingly enough, right? I'll tell you this. When I was in the military, I was meeting I was meeting people. They was like, I've never seen a black person my whole time growing up.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I didn't get it, but I understand it. But it was like, yeah, in my hometown there was no black people. So when
Hmm.
they get in the military and everybody was together, and it was a different experience. And it was like, yeah, I never had this experience, and it was mind blowing.
Yeah.
Because even like me personally, I mean, I wasn't when I grew up in Jamaica too. We had white people. We didn't have like a lot of white people, but we didn't really look at the contrast that much because it was
Hmm.
just everybody's from the island. But then when you come to America, it's a different experience,
Hmm.
totally different
Very
experience.
different experience.
Hey guys, hey Meg, hey Asher. Let's
Hi.
jump
There go,
into the
there goes like what
conversation.
I just want to say welcome back live. You've been gone for a while. I haven't seen you in so long. Welcome
Thank
back.
you. Thank you. I'm so happy that you guys accepted me a little bit, but I'm here. Meg, thank you for sharing this story with us because I feel today so many people will be a little bit shy or cautious to talk about this topic, but it's awesome that you shared it with us. And Asher, the fact that you mentioned that people told you they did not see in real life black people around you. Let me tell you that growing up myself in my hometown in my country, I did not see any black people in real life. It was only on TV, and it was so cool, to
Mhm.
see the
Hmm.
boys like starring or singing. Or so I was super excited when I started to fly to work as a flight attendant, and I interacted with friends from Kenya, from Nigeria,
Yeah.
yeah, and then from Asia, and we were
Hmm.
all from different race, different color, different culture, and was just so excited. And as you said, I was so curious to learn
Yeah.
more about
Yeah.
them and see how we are similar in so many ways and what are the
Yeah.
differences. It was a mind-opening experience. It was
Hmm.
great.
It really is. It really is. I I when I worked in Phoenix, Arizona for a while, I worked in a group that was extremely diverse, people from many different countries as well as many different backgrounds, and I just have always embraced that. I love it. Like you mentioned, it's just so neat to learn and see what all of our similarities are as well as our differences.
Mm. So what did you learn the most, Meg, that you want to share?
That
What stood out to you from that experience?
I would say that we're all human beings.
Hmm.
Um, in that we all want love, we want acceptance, we want to learn, we want to grow. And that if we don't live in fear, we can learn so much more. I think of that because I'd mentioned before, my girlfriend took me to a party where I was the only white person. And I
Mm.
have to acknowledge when I first walked in, I was fearful because I felt like I stood out so much. And I wasn't used to people from. I mean, these people were black, but they were from all over the world, and so I was fearful. And luckily, my two friends, my roommate and my other friend, were very good to me, and introduced me to people and all that. Next thing you know, I'm just talking along with everybody, and we came home, and the not my roommate, but the other gal said, "Well, how do you feel? You are now a minority for probably the first time in your life." And
Mm.
they said, this is what we experience every day. And I said, I was afraid at first. I honestly was, because I was unknown
Mm.
and I felt very out of place. I felt like I stuck out. And she said, that's what we feel like every day. And I said, but what I came around to was we're all the same in so many ways. We're just people. I said, we want to know other people. We want to interact with other people. We want to have fun. We were dancing. I said, it was really a good time. And I said, I learned some skills that I didn't have. But to me, and I've kind of mentioned this in the past, is that really opened the door to me to be welcoming to anyone from any race, any color, any culture, because I know how rich my life will become by adding these people in and listening and learning and sharing my experiences as well.
Mm. That was beautiful, by the way. You said something that stood out to me. She said, that's how I feel like every day.
Mm-hmm.
And just imagine, I mean, after a while you get used to it, but just imagine those maybe like a couple of months of that experience itself, where you go into a room, you walk into a room and you might be probably the only one that look the way you look. Or you
Mm-hmm.
might go to a place and you probably don't want to look the way you look, and how that make you
Mm-hmm.
feel?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it
It,
doesn't matter.
it,
That's
it is overwhelming because we connect with people who look like us. It's
Mm-hmm.
easier. It's just a
mm-hmm,
basic mindset. You look around in the room, and if you're, in if you're a certain body type, you would
Mm-hmm.
instantly connect with somebody who has your body type. It's
Correct.
just the way it is because you feel
It
comfortable.
is.
And they go, we're alike. So it's a bit uncomfortable until you push out of that comfort zone. And yeah,
It
you realize
is.
what you just said, man. We all want love and acceptance. That was really
Mm-hmm.
big. Yeah.
Very true. Very true.
mm.
Well, if you want to stay on the same theme, I can share one more story that was
Yeah,
a
yes. Who was talking about it earlier? If you don't mind sharing that
yeah.
also.
So several years ago, I would say right around 2017, 2016, right in there, I was living in Colorado Springs,
Mm,
and I was dating a black man, and we'd gone out to dinner and we were on our way home, and we got pulled over.
mm.
Well, I have a history of being pulled over a fair amount. So this was not a new experience for me as far as being pulled over. I was like, okay, here we go again. This time it's you. Yay, not me. And so I started to kind of get ready to dive in the glove box. And, I said, where's your license? Where's your insurance? Where's your registration? I'll get it. He said, stop,
Mm,
just stop. Okay. And this was a very mild mannered, gentle person. And there was a tone in his voice that I picked up that I'm like, I need to be quiet and listen. I don't know what's going on, but I need to be quiet and listen. And so the cop came up to the driver's door, and he had told me, just sit with your hands on your lap, visible, and don't move unless you get permission to. And I kind of looked at him with a side eye, like, what do you mean I get permission to? Never gotten permission to do that since I've been an adult. But I didn't say any of that. I just sat there quietly with my hands on my lap. And the police officer came up, and I noticed my friend had his hands on the steering wheel, but open. And the police officer came up and he said, hello, how are you doing this evening? And he said, I need to see your driver's license and registration. And what is she doing in your car?
mm,
Oh my goodness.
And I was stunned. And so my friend took first things first. He said, well, my driver's license is in my right back pocket. He said, may I go for it? And I'm looking at him like, you're crazy. Why are you asking permission to get your license out? And so the officer said, yes, but do it slowly. And again, this was just foreign to me.
mm.
And so he reached slowly into his back pocket and kind of lifted up a little bit, got his license out, opened his wallet, and handed it to the cop. All very slow movements. He said, well, now I need to see your registration and your insurance. And he said, well, that is in my glove box, which is on the side of my friend here. Would you like her to get it? He said, yes, but you need to move slow too, he pointed at me. And I said, okay. And this young rebel in me was just really struggling with this whole thing. So I slowly got the glove box open, found his registration and his insurance, and then I slowly passed it across to him. And so he took all of that. He went back to the car, and I said, what is happening here? I said, I've never experienced this before. He said, welcome to driving black, driving while black. And I
Mm.
said, what do you mean by that? And he said, if you're black, and especially if you're male and you have a white female in your car, he said, you are automatically under suspicion. And he said, so this is the way, anytime I've been pulled over for anything, this is the way that I have to do it. And this gentleman was, bachelor's, master's degree, was a principal of a school, very well established in the community. And so anyway, a few minutes later, the cop came back and he said, well, I think I'm going to let you go tonight. And my friend said, well, why did you pull us over? He said, did I ask you to ask me a question? And I said, no. And so then I couldn't take it anymore. I said, okay, well, I'm asking, why did you pull us over? And he said, well, your left tail light is dimmer than your right. And he said, so you need to get it replaced pretty soon. And this whole thing took well over 30 minutes, this whole process. He said, I'm going to go back and write you a warning for that light. And instantly I wanted to fight back and go, it's not out. Why are you writing us a warning? That part of me wanted to advocate. But I didn't. I just sat there and he came up and gave it. And he said, now you may leave. I'm like, okay. So we put our seatbelts back on and took off down the road. So we got a little way down the road. And I said, were you joking when you said this is something that happens to you all the time when you get pulled over? He said, no, I wasn't joking at all. He said, it's always, and many times it's more contentious than that. And I forgot to tell you, the police officer did ask me if I was in the car voluntarily. And I said, yes, absolutely. This is my friend. And we went out to dinner. And I was kind of indignant with that. And so then I asked him about that. And he said, oh, yeah. He said, that's a target if you're a black man and you have a white woman in your car. He said that they don't like that at all. And I'm like, what business is it of theirs? I'm just getting really indignant and irritated. And he said, there's nothing I can do about it. He said, but if we ever get pulled over again, you need to do the same thing. And I said, well, what happens? Because I tend to get pulled over more than you. If you're in the car with me, he said, it'll be more tense than it normally is, but it won't be as bad as it was tonight. I'm just like, wow. And I know there's so many stories out there of so many Black people that have been pulled over, been shot, been tased, whatever. And so, I got this whole new level of respect. And my current husband is also Black. And I told him this story and he said, oh yeah, that's the way it is. I'm like, wow. It makes me really, first it made me angry and then it made me really sad.
Yeah, that's the reaction that I'm sure we all have now as we listen. Asher, did something like that happen to you ever? When you are pulled over, or you are never pulled over because you're such a great driver?
No, it's similar, but I'll tell you why, because it's not just even the car. It's just threatening. It's the threatening energy that sometimes that happens because the fearfulness, so forth and so on. And we saw it all the time. I could walk around, I could see the fear in certain people's eyes sometimes. Like, why are you afraid? Like, I'm not here to do anything. Like, we're just here. But I remember getting pulled over, and I think it was back in North Carolina. I was in the military too. It was me and my Jamaican buddy. We was going partying one night. I think we was going to like some all white party or something like that. And that was the first time I ever got in handcuffs for no reason. But I was heading to a party and we was playing the music. We just going. We was in the vibe, like we gonna have a good time tonight. and then we got pulled over. I think it was like I think it was kind of like rain, maybe like that day or something like that. But we got pulled over and they got us out of the car, right? Checked all the stuff and everything. Then they handcuffed us and put us in the grass and was lay there. And they went there and just bullshit back there for a while, right? And me and my boy was like, listen, like, cause my car was brand new, my car was registered, everything. Like I know my stuff was correct, right? And they was having us there, just having us sitting down just in the bushes, messing up our clothes and everything. And it took us maybe like it was over 30 minutes, about an hour, close to that time. We were sitting there, we were just hanging out, just waiting for no reason. And then they came back saying, oh, well, you guys matches the description of somebody that stole a car, and we just gonna make sure, blah, blah, whatever, whatever. And my boy was like, nah, man, they fucking with us. Like, just fucking with us. But in that moment, we was mad, but we started laughing. It was like, okay, all right. We was laughing like, okay, this is what happens in America. Like, even though we get them a military license, everything, right? These guys know, but no, it was still the same thing. And I never liked the South because I see that stuff all the time. My friends talk about the same thing. Like in the South, it was even worse. Like antagonize, just antagonize you for no reason and no respect. So yeah.
My goodness, I'm sorry for your experience.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I because of naivety, I guess, I was in my probably late 30s before I ever realized how much that was, impacted things when I had this experience. And it just opened my eyes to a whole other world. And, then over these last 4 or 5 years, all the things that have happened, it's been happening before that, but it's getting more publicity now. It breaks my heart.
And being that your mind is open so much, so when you was in like the healthcare field, do you have a lot of different races or minorities working in your organization. How was that relationship like for you?
I think it was a lot of teaching and mentoring of others,
Mm-hmm.
and asking questions because I know how I want to be cared for when I go to the hospital or when I'm in a clinic or whatever. And so many people would say, treat others like you want to be treated. And
Mm-hmm.
I would always challenge that and say, no, you need to treat others how they want to be treated, need to be treated.
Mm-hmm.
So we had people from all kinds of different countries and Native Americans, from this country, and so many different cultures, the Hispanic culture and the Asian culture and many of the African cultures. And we assumed, naturally you just kind of assume how you take care of someone is how you take care of them. But it isn't. And so I did a lot of education and a lot of teaching on, we need to find out. You may feel silly asking these questions of someone, but is it okay if a female touches you or a male touches you? Are you comfortable getting undressed? And if not, let's talk about what we could do differently. And here's why we need you to be undressed if we're doing something. And then talking to people about, when I worked in hospice, we had a limit of only 3 people or 2 people could visit at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we had Latina families that would come and there would be 25 of them,
Of course.
and so it was like, okay, let's find a middle ground because with 25 people in one room, we know it's going to get very loud and it's going to disrupt other patients.
Mhm.
And so, it was just sitting down and having a conversation and explaining why 25 people couldn't come in at once, but we could have 5 or 10 come in at once as long as you kept the volume down.
Mhm.
And again, if you explain to people the why behind things, so
Mhm.
much, I'm the same way. I'm much more receptive to making compromise and understanding what you're asking me to do if I understand the why. So I think that was a lot of it, was understanding their why, of why they needed certain things certain ways, and then also helping them to understand our why as a healthcare delivery system, that certain things we could do and certain things were just beyond what we could do. Does
Meg,
that make sense?
yes, I really appreciate you like trying to speak the culture of different
Mhm.
communities because a lot of people don't even open their mind to do that.
Mhm.
Right? They close off culture. They don't want to speak. I mean, it's understand like I think speaking culture is more important than speaking the language.
Mhm. Oh yeah, I agree.
Because if you don't understand the culture, you will get so much wrong.
Yeah.
Get so much wrong. But when you understand it, it takes away a lot of fear. Even if I don't understand what you're saying, but I understand your culture, we can communicate.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think it requires us to be very humble as healthcare providers
Mm.
and understand if we're going to make any progress in this healthcare inequity that we have today, we are going to have to care for people where they're at the best that we can and really open up those lines of communication, because otherwise we're never going to make progress on health equity and and having people have the same experience and the same access to care that some of us have.
Like, I do have to say that you have a very nurturing energy.
Thank you.
And I like how you explain, and I like how you highlighted that people liked to know why. And it makes so much sense, right? Because otherwise, you feel like you're treated like a kid.
Yeah.
Not only to kids, you tell them to do certain stuff and you don't
Mhm.
explain. So as an adult, you get very frustrated when you're pushed around left and right
Mhm.
and you don't know why. And then when you mentioned about not being able to have 25 people in the room, let me tell you, you wouldn't be able to have 20, even 5 Romanians in a room. I'm coming from home. I was in Romania for a few weeks, and we got all together. And when we started talking, we were all excited, talking on top of each
Mhm.
other. And the way we talk, it's with like intonation, and it's like, na, 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 na,
Mm.
na, 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 and it was so loud. And for a second, because I'm used to interacting with other cultures, I put myself aside and I kind of looked at the room, and I was thinking, wow, what a difference
Yeah.
between getting my Romanian family together and getting together, for example, with Americans, or where they
Mhm.
all talk more calm and take turns and all that. But we were all passionate and talking on top of each other. So I get it. I completely get it.
Yeah. And like I said, every time that would happen, having that conversation saying, there's another person who's facing their end of life, and they're right next door to you. And so, we want to keep it at a moderate to low level of noise. And once you did that, it was night and day. 99% of the time that would take care of it.
Why did you get into healthcare initially, by the way?
Well, that's a funny story. So when I was young, I'd mentioned once before, I grew up in an abusive house, and the only friends I had, because I was an only child, were my animals. And so I loved our cows, our pigs, our chickens, my dogs, my cats, loved every one of them. I felt like I was super connected to animals. And so when I was about 15 or 16, I would always run out if I was home when the vet would come to do something with our animals. And I was just in such awe of our veterinarian. And so I asked the veterinarian if I could shadow him for a summer before I think it must have been my 15th year, because I wasn't old enough to work yet. And he said, "Oh, absolutely. Come on, come with me." So we went to farms and we delivered horses, baby horses, and we delivered some pigs that were breech, and we inseminated this cow. We did all this stuff that was like, oh, this is so cool. So after that summer, I came back and I told my parents, I said, I want to be a veterinarian. And my dad looked at me with no uncertain terms and said, "You're way too stupid to be a vet." He said, "You're going to have to settle for being a nurse." And I was like, okay. And so I thought, he was very impulsive and an angry person. So I thought, oh, he'll get over that, and later on he'll be fine with that. Stayed with that. And so when I graduated high school, I was told, "You will become a nurse, and here's where you're going to school." And so I did. And initially I was pretty angry about all of that. But by probably my sophomore year, I started to realize I liked people too, not just animals. And I was okay caring for people as well. And so I ended up, and there's so much diversity in nursing that you can do. And I actually, once I became 16, I started to work at our local hospital, and I would be drawn to people that were near end of life. And I would love to sit with them, even if it was on my own time, to make sure they weren't alone when they crossed over and made the transition. So it endeared me much more to caring for humans than animals.
I am going to ask you about that part of you just say about you sit with people that are transitioning. Not a lot of people, some people are scared of that.
Oh yeah, a lot of people are scared of that.
Why was that so comfortable for you?
When I was 16, I don't know. It just, to me, it was like, if that was me laying in that bed in my last hours on earth, I would not want to be staring at a white wall or brown cabinets and nothing else. I would want to have a human there with me, or an animal, but some living thing there with me. And so I remember this gal's, her name was Amy. And she was probably about 92, right around there. And she loved music and she loved poetry. So I just sat there and held her hand, and I would sing off and on, and then I would read her a poem, and then we just sit in quiet, and I'd ask, see if she needed anything. And the last few hours, she was no longer conscious, but I still played music for her, and I still read poetry to her until she transitioned. And it was just a beautiful, and I think that's why I was open to doing that work later in my life, was because my first experience was so beautiful, so peaceful.
Well, you're a special kind of human being there, Meg.
Yes, you are. And I understand why I felt like you're a nurturing person. You truly are. And your work is it's a demonstration of that, empathetic and caring and nurturing. Yeah, I can feel that energy. So I admire you and I respect you. Do you have did you take away anything from those last minutes of those people who passed away, like life lessons or regrets that they have? I know nowadays we talk a lot about that, but if you have something that you would like to share with us.
Yeah, I did. One of my patients was an author, and she ran a library as well. But being a nurse, I wanted to make sure she was very comfortable. And this was one of my early patients. And so I spent most of my time initially with her trying to get her to take pain meds or trying to, do something to increase her pain was like at an 8 or a 9. And that's so uncomfortable. And so finally, I I learned kind of the art of negotiating with her. We would do patches, we would do some other things. We did some radiation to help her pain, but she would not take pain meds. And so one day she said to me, Meg, stop it. You're driving me nuts and you're not making my last months on earth very good. And I said, I'm sorry. Stop what? I mean, I'm trying to help you be comfortable. And she said, my goal is to finish this book and get it published. And she said, if you put me on those darn drugs, I won't be able to think and I won't be able ever be able to finish this book. And I will transition unhappy and angry and frustrated.
Mm.
I said, okay, thank you for letting me know that. And I was very much humbled at that point. And so we continued to brainstorm other ways that we could relieve her pain, other than medication. And then I remember a few weeks later coming, and I came at least a couple times a week, but a few weeks later I came and she said, my book has been submitted. Bring on the drugs. Okay. And I said, I'm not going to overdose you, but I want you to at least be down around a 3, 4 rating, for pain. And she said, yep, that's fine now. She goes, all those recommendations you were giving me, I'm willing to do them now. And so the big awareness for me was, even though I was a nurse, this wasn't my death that I was doing. I was trying to do death according to how I wanted it to be and how I wanted her to feel. And it was not my death. It was not my place to make those decisions. I can offer up options. But that was just a light bulb moment went on for me. And it helped me the whole rest of the time, actually the rest of my life, is realizing that when you're supporting someone, whether it be out of surgery or their mental health recovery or transitioning them to the next life, you need to listen to them, to do it their way, and just get over your own discomfort that, they're not, I don't want to be graded as a bad nurse because my patient's got a pain of 8 or 9. This is her request, and I need to honor that to the best of my ability. And so that was really a huge light bulb for me, that again, taking people where they are, recognizing where they are, opening those lines of communication, and respecting some boundaries that someone may set, when they're getting towards the end of life. End of life people are some of the most wise, authentic, honest people you will ever come across. It seems like they feel, what do I have to lose? I'm going to say exactly what I've always wanted to say and maybe held back on it. And when I ask people, what do they want their death to be like? They will tell me what they want their death to be like. They're not afraid of that. And that's really inspiring to me, to be with that authenticity and that honesty.
You said something that was very powerful, by the way.
And what was that? Yeah.
You said, she said, this is not your debt. Or you said, this is not your debt.
Mm-hmm.
This is mine. Just like in life, people want to live their life on their term. They want to die on their term too. And sometimes we don't recognize that. Like,
right.
I want to live on my own terms. So I want to die on my own terms too. And she made you know that. That was very powerful. That made me think about life a little bit more now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how do I want to live? How do I want to die?
Hmm.
And can I make a decision
I
about?
think you would be writing your book, Asher. I think that the lady's story will be your story. Hopefully, God forbid, I don't want you to be in level 9 pain, but I think you will be writing a book or something.
I'll be writing something. I was trying to get something else out of me. Because, when I was thinking about even personal growth itself lately, and I was thinking about, we all set goal. But I think in the end, like overall in the end of life, like the only goal is us.
Mm-hmm.
We are the only goal. And we focus on how do we can actually grow and get better and work on, collect these experiences and make ourselves feel a lot more connected to life. That's the real goal. That's the only goal that really matters. Everything else is external, but it's still the internal goal. We are the goal. So if you can focus on that, then you can kind of leave a lot of legacy. Just like that lady was like, I'm going to put my history, my intellectual property into this book. I'm going to leave it before I go so somebody else can kind of read it. So that's powerful.
It is really powerful. And, so many times everyone's legacy is so different, what they want, and that's one of the first questions when I sit down with patients that are facing a terminal illness and there really isn't a lot of treatment options left, is what's important to you for whatever time you have left. And for some people that's going seeing their grandchildren. For some people I had one person that was going to Las Vegas to see a show and gamble in a casino. Whatever it is, I'm not here to judge. I'm here to help facilitate these people achieving whatever it is they want to achieve. Maybe it's seeing all of their children in person one more time. Everybody's got something different, or forgiving someone. And so that's the cool part is that, it's not depressing working with people who are preparing to transition. It's actually incredibly inspiring because they become so authentic and they're like, I don't care about my house. I don't care about my sports car out there. What I care about is reconnecting with my children or my grandchildren or forgiving a long lost brother, whatever it might be. So it's really back to the heart and the soul that they return.
Wow, speechless. Well, it takes me, sorry, Asher, to interrupt you, but I do have to share this very quick. First of all, the second lesson that was out there, and I want to highlight it, is when you said we want to help people, but we don't ask, how would you like to be helped? And I'm guilty as well, trying to help my friends and people around me, but it will be my way because that's the correct way.
Exactly.
Instead of taking the time, instead of starting with, how would you like to be helped? Because you just push them away and your energy and your frustration will go through the roof and your energy will be wasted. But it'll be your fault. I mean, my fault, because I don't ask, how would you like to be helped? And if you would like to be helped. So that's an awesome, awesome, awesome lesson. And then this week, few days, I was in Washington, D.C. At an event. And funny enough, the event was mostly organized for students. And don't you think that we are at the end of it, at the very end, at a bar to celebrate with all the organizers? I wasn't a student. I was somewhat with the organizers. And then I see this older gentleman in his 80s, smiling and looking at me from the other table. I smiled back. And then he came and he sat next to me. And we started talking. It was the most beautiful conversation I had in that evening because he was so joyful, so pure. He was telling me how he likes to dance, how he actually biked through Africa in I don't know how many months with an organized group, and they had the people with the bus following them with the Medicare there and all that. And his stories were so full and rich, and I was so blessed that I had a chance to hear a little bit of his, richness that he shared with me. And I left that place and I told my boyfriend, oh my God, this was by far the best conversation I had tonight. I enjoyed talking to that old man who came and sat next to me in the club. It was awesome.
That's so neat. Yeah, I think working in hospice was the first time I experienced what I perceive as true soulmates and true unbelievable love. And that was what kind of inspired me to go, you know what, you need to move on and find, your true love. But yeah, there's so many stories that come out of them. So much wisdom comes out of them. So much joy many times comes out of them as they share, their life. And then sometimes it's fear and unresolved issues that come out too. But yeah, it's just an incredible time.
Well, congratulations to both of you, and congratulations, Lab, for this. Was that your first time in Washington, D.C.?
No, it wasn't. The Romanian embassy in Washington. It's in Washington, D.C., and I've been there before. I really didn't have first times in this trip, but I did enjoy it.
That's okay.
Well, listen,
I will not forget
you did.
John.
You have a
His
first
name
time
was
talk to
John.
that old man. You had a first time talk
His
to that
name
old
was
man.
John. Let me say, yeah, and very, very a wonderful soul, and I think that's why I was always excited to talk to elderly because they have indeed this wisdom that they will share with you without any problem. And they'll speak the truth. They won't care. They don't care to be judged. They don't care to walk on a thin thread to fit into society. It's beautiful.
It is. It's a beautiful thing. I'm so glad you had that experience with him.
Yeah.
There's something about elders and babies, young kids.
Yeah.
They all speak the truth. You can get the truth from them.
It's so true. In the middle of our lives is when we kind of become these pretenders sometimes and
Yeah.
start living a life that somebody else wants for us.
Mm.
Yes.
So I know Meg, you said you retired, but you're doing. So if you don't mind telling us about that, this new profession that you've been mastering, that you've been enjoying so much, and why is this new profession so important to you?
Yeah, I did. I retired out of corporate healthcare leadership. It had just taken on a whole new life since COVID, and not in a good way. And so what I wanted to do was I had incredible experiences throughout my healthcare career with reformatting, redesigning entire practices, just helping people, pushing them to think outside the box in healthcare delivery. And so I wanted to be available to be able to help other organizations do that, whether they're needing to look at, which staff member can I have do what things so that we can be the most efficient and yet provide quality care. So that part is the healthcare consulting part that I do. And I truly, truly enjoy that, of just pushing people and helping them think outside the box of new ways to do things. And then the other part is, especially these last 4 to 5 years, the leaders that we're getting in nursing and in healthcare have maybe only been out of school 1 or 2 years. They don't have the diverse experience that we used to have, where they've been in the hospital, they may have been charge nurse, they may have been an educator, and then they come to leadership. And so most organizations, clearly over half of all organizations, don't provide anything but maybe a few classes as you become a new leader. And then that's it. Then you're done. Go ahead and go forth and be a great leader. They don't provide mentors. They don't provide coaches. They don't provide ongoing learnings and workshops and seminars. And so that's what the hole I'm trying to fill is helping healthcare leaders become the next level and become who they really can be as a leader, an authentic, wise leader of change and leader of others. And then the personal, I also do personal coaching, life coaching for people. And it's really to, as I mentioned before, I grew up kind of in an abusive home and had some challenging experiences early in life. And I got all these messages and beliefs, messages that came to me and then turned into beliefs that I didn't believe that I was worthy of this or that or the other. And so what I want to do is help people who are also struggling, whether it be from trauma or neglect or dysfunctional relationships. They get these messages that feel that they're less than. And so how do we help change those messages, reprogram those messages so that you understand that you are worthy to live your best life? And what's getting in your way? What are those barricades? And let's figure out how to get them out of the way so you can truly enjoy life.
That is very clear to me.
Oh, good.
And I'm sure you probably spin a bit of cultural diversity in there. You can have,
Yes.
yeah, because definitely you are an expert in that area because you have experience more than a lot of people have.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really, it's not even so much just about culture. It's about being open to learning about other people and providing whatever service you provide to them on the level that they want, in the way that works for them. Because you're not going to get any progress someone if you're coming in with your own agenda and this is what would work for me, so therefore I'm going to do it this way. But really getting to know them authentically so that you can provide that best service for them. And whether it be helping them overcome cultural and race issues, whether it be helping them overcome weight issues and gender issues. There's just so many challenges out there that we can help people walk through if we understand how to best help them.
Well, Meg, thank you so much for sharing today. And if
Thank you.
somebody hear you right now, like, Meg, guess what? In the beginning, we asked that question, we want to be a hero to, and they said, oh, Meg, guess what? You're my hero. How can they find you and work with you?
So they can look at my website. I'm also on LinkedIn. So on LinkedIn, they can find me under First Quality Consulting. And then my website is www.firstqualityconsulting.com. And on there, they can send me a direct message. They can ask and set up a phone call where we can just chat for a while and see if we're a good fit to work together. Or there's also, if they're a healthcare organization, there's a request form that they can ask for initial meeting to talk about healthcare needs.
Perfect. So I would close out a few of these things. And if you had to wrap up today, Megan, tell us what was your biggest takeaway or giveaway from this conversation, what would it be?
I would say recognizing our sameness and our differences, accepting that, acknowledging that, and then moving forward in the world, learning from that. And when you're trying to help other people, recognizing who they are in totality, who they are spiritually, who they are mentally, who they are physically, really getting to know them so that you can help them in the best way that they need. So, really, just having your mind wide open and
Mm.
asking powerful questions is so good. So amazing.
Mm. Any thoughts, Lab?
This was amazing. Thank you so much, Meg. I do have the biggest takeaway, which was learn how to help the people around you. Don't offer just the help that you want to offer or how you would like to be helped. And yeah, that's a great reminder for every day.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you for this opportunity.
And here's my closing question, Meg. What is that one thing or two thing when people do it drive you crazy?
People that are not able to listen
Mm.
and listen to understand, not just listen to reply. And then people who spend their life in fear, fearing everyone and everything around them because they have not asked those powerful questions and listened and understood.
Mm. Sound like an expert to me in this area, by the way. Thank you so much, Meg. And you are
Thank
tuning
you.
to Pandora's Awareness Podcast, a place we collect stories and circulate life-changing wisdom. And today we had a conversation with Meg around first-time experiences. And we started all the way from, our experience with the law. But then we end on the experience with medical care. And oftentimes it goes hand in hand too, because if the forces get you, the medical folks gotta rescue you, right? So either way, it happens like that. And it's been awesome meeting you, by the way, Meg. So thank you so much for the generous use of your time showing up today and sharing your story. And like what and Lab, welcome back, Queen Lab, because I miss you, my friend. You've been gone for so long.
Thank you. I missed you
Hiding out in
too.
Romania.
Yeah, I'm back. I'll be here. What you said something about Romania?
I say you've been hiding out in Romania.
Yeah, in the mountains, in the castle of my great grandfather, Dracula.
Mm.
All right, folks. Well,